We acknowledge the Gadigal people of the Eora Nation, the traditional custodians of this land.
As one of the oldest living cultures on Earth, we celebrate their age-old connections to country, along with the knowledge, determination, patience and generosity of all First Nations people, past and present.
This is Aboriginal land.
Hi, I'm Lucille McCart.
And I'm Chantelle Otten. We're from Bumble, and this is Give Me a Buzz.
From first dates to heartbreak, we can all relate to the ups and downs of modern dating and relationships.
We're here to give you the inspiration, education, and motivation to navigate any dating fairy tale or dilemma that may come your way.
Okay, so we are joined today by Jordanna Levin, best-selling author of many books.
Many books.
Some of which Shanti and I already own, some of which we're going to be popping by the bookstore after this. Make It Happen, Make You Happen, Higher Love, that's the one I have, and All Signs Point to You. Welcome, Jordanna.
Thank you so much for having me.
So we like to ask every guest 2 questions when they get on the podcast. And the first one is, what is your opening move?
My opening move, I always like to know, and this goes for anyone I meet, what was the highlight of the day and what was the low light of the day?
Ooh.
Because I think you can tell a lot about a person around like how they view what was what was a highlight and what was a low light. Like what energy are you bringing to this, you know?
Yeah. 100%.
Even if it was like the first sip of coffee was my highlight of the day.
Yeah.
You know?
What would you say yours are today?
Today, I would say my first sip of coffee was my highlight.
Not
today.
this podcast.
No, not yet. Well,
Maybe
it could be my low light. We don't know.
Can't wait for this. No, I'm joking.
And my low light was probably I had quite a turbulent flight.
Yeah.
Oh,
yes.
Yeah. What about you guys?
My highlight was seeing you this morning doing your makeup in
the lobby of the hotel.
Lobby of the hotel in the window. And I haven't had a low light today.
No, so you have to give me a low light.
Just probably I'm a bit tired, but it's after a big day.
Yeah, my highlight would be the sandwich we just ate.
That was delicious. Yeah.
Good.
And my low light would be
Lack of sleep?
spilling the coffee on myself.
Oh, yeah.
That is a low light.
Yeah. Okay. Next question is, what is the worst dating advice you've ever received?
Look, I think like any dating advice that asks you to be, do, or say something that isn't who you are.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? When someone's like, oh, you know what, you should stop doing that thing that you do, stop doing that.
Yes.
And maybe you'll find dating easier.
Be someone different.
Yeah, exactly.
Like guys don't like girls that do X.
Yeah, so stop
don't do
doing
that. And
Yeah.
it's like,
I know.
here's what guys like.
No.
Let's talk about
Me
some
sometimes.
Let's talk about some really fun. I don't know. I'm really excited for this episode because we have been talking a lot about abundance, about manifestation. I've just done my manifestation journal for 2025.
Beautiful.
I'm really excited for it. And I just want you to explain what manifestation actually is.
Yeah. I think like a really simplified way of explaining manifestation is to say it's about taking ownership of a future you desire. The thing is, like, we are all manifesting every single minute of every day, whether we know about manifestation, whether we believe in manifestation or not. And so what I try and teach when I'm teaching people manifestation is how can you take ownership of what it is you want to bring into your life? And it comes down to how you direct your energy, basically. Yeah.
I love that. Do you agree with that?
Yeah, I think it's interesting because one of the things that I think has come up in like nearly every episode of the podcast we've recorded this season and last season when it comes to dating is this idea of like an abundance mindset or a scarcity mindset.
Right.
And if you're like operating in that abundance mindset, you tend to have more success. And if you operate from a scarcity mindset of like, there's no good men out there, no one's going to pick me, like I'm running out of time, that's kind of what ends up being true.
Absolutely. And I think what's scariest about this is it doesn't have to be your innate mindset. It's like if you spend too much time in the wrong TikTok algorithm, you will adopt that mindset immediately. You know, when you fall in that algorithm where it's just them complaining video after video about there's no men out there, all the men are terrible, dating apps are terrible, like all these horrible things. And before you know it, your energy is aligning with those beliefs.
Yeah.
And that's how powerful manifestation is that you can be walking around not even thinking about it, but energetically that's how you're vibrating.
Yeah, and I would just like to say, like, having an abundance mindset and having a lack mindset is completely different to like feeling good or feeling bad on a certain day. Like, you will have days where you feel depressed and you feel like deflated or just not very hopeful. That's very different from having a lack mindset consistently.
Absolutely. I think the biggest determining factor when it comes to manifestation is self-awareness.
Yeah.
How self-aware am I about the energy that I'm emitting? And it doesn't mean, like you said, it doesn't mean being positive 24/7. It doesn't mean constantly being in an abundance mindset, but it does mean catching yourself out when your thoughts are telling you over and over and over again, I'm never going to meet someone, there's nobody out there, I'm too old, or whatever society's telling you. Yeah.
We had a question in here about how to go about setting intentions for your dating life. But like before we get to that, I think the thing about setting intentions is you have to know what you want. I think a lot of people don't know what they want.
I think you're right.
Or what they like.
Yeah.
So before you get to the step of setting an intention, how do you help people work out what they want in the first place?
Yeah. There's two things we do before we set intentions. The first thing is working out what you value in relationships. So not what the internet tells you are good values to have in relationships, but like what core values are important to you when you're dating or in relationship with someone. So for example, for me, honesty.
Yeah.
Honesty, commitment, open communication, and I mean, there's lots of them, right? The next thing I would look at is once you've got your core values, you want to have a look at how do I want to feel when I'm in relationship? I want to feel happy. I want to feel connected. I want to feel excited. It's going to be different for everybody. The big one for me, which is so unsexy, but I want to feel safe, right? Physically safe, of course.
That's very sexy.
Thank
What are
you so
talking
much.
about? No, that's very sexy, and I think that should be the baseline, non-negotiable for every single person going into a relationship.
Right. So then what we do is we go, okay, I've got my core values of honesty and trustworthiness and open communication, and I've got the things I want to feel, which is safe and happy and excited and connected. Do I feel these things in this experience? Am I able to connect with these things on this date or with this person, right? You might not be hitting those things on date one. That's okay. But by date 4 or 5, if you can't find yourself aligning with the feeling that this person is upholding my values and is aligned with my values, then we can start to use that as a barometer of maybe this isn't the right person for me.
Yeah.
Maybe I should move on to the next experience.
Interesting. I think we often hear people saying as well, like, the universe has a plan for you. I don't know if I necessarily agree with that, but maybe I'm wrong, because I believe you can make your own plan and then create the universe, like, I don't know, create your own universe around your plan. Can you tell me a little bit about whether I'm right or wrong?
I don't know if we can answer whether you're right or wrong, because I'm not really sure either.
Yeah.
But I think what I believe.
Chantelle's question is, like, who is in charge of the universe?
Yes. Well, I did talk to them last week.
Who do I need to chat to? Because it's going a little bit haywire for me at the moment.
Chantelle's like, what is the meaning of life? How does the world work?
I think,
I tried to manifest what I wanted for the end of the year and it didn't happen, unfortunately.
I will just stop you there because people say that all the time. I think that part of it is the manifestation. We always think that we set the intention and then we wait for the manifestation to be how we envisaged it. But sometimes I hate this word, but the journey to get there is part of the unraveling of the manifestation, right? And I think when people can hold this mindset in dating, it's really important. I've been trying to manifest the perfect person, but I keep going out on these dates with these people and it's not really going anywhere. Yeah, but what are you learning about yourself? And are those things you're learning about yourself getting you closer to the kind of person that you want? Back to your original question about the plan.
Yeah.
My personal belief is there's a loose plan. There's a loosey-goosey blueprint sort of treasure map. And I work as an astrologer as well. We would say the natal chart is a really good blueprint for this.
Yeah.
And it basically can show you where your potential is, where your purpose is. How you get there is up to you. Yeah? You always have free will. You always have choice. And you get to decide how you direct your energy.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I think that's a really good one. Okay, so let's talk about setting intentions for dating life, because we want to talk about, like, are there some steps that you can take that you believe are best practice?
Absolutely. I work with an equation, which sounds really boring, doesn't it? But it's called the manifestation equation. And I think it's the easiest way to sort of work with whatever intention you set. So let's say we set an intention around how we want to feel in relationship. And I really want to stress that bit rather than manifesting a particular person who has a particular set of traits and looks a particular way and is 6'5", blue eyes.
So if you're putting like 6 foot rugby player, like lives in Bondi on your manifestation, like firstly you can
what was
you
it?
can
Trust
find
fund,
him.
blue eyes, 6'5".
Works in finance.
Works in finance.
Yeah. That's not what you should be putting on the manifestation board, is what you're saying.
What I really want
to
to keep reiterating here is when we're manifesting, we're working on our energy, right? So how do I want to feel in relationship? What do I want to bring to the table in relationship? Who do I want to be in my next relationship, right? And so if we set an intention around that, I want to feel this, I want to feel that, I want someone to be aligned with my values of trust and honesty and blah, 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 blah. Then we apply the equation. The equation is thoughts plus feelings plus actions plus faith. So we take the intention. Are my thoughts aligned with this intention? Or am I telling myself in my mindset day to day, I'm never going to meet anyone, there's no men out there, there's no women out there, you know.
So open your blinkers.
Yeah.
Okay.
And catch yourself when you have those thoughts. And we all have them. Like
snap
we're normal,
out of it.
We have them, but snap out of it.
Yeah, it's not necessarily about controlling your thoughts or like never having negative thoughts. It's about
that's impossible.
Just moving on, moving on from them when
Catching
they happen.
it. I
My
say
best
stop.
friend, Jackie, told me I cured all of her problems when I told her to get over herself one day.
I mean, sometimes that is good. Yeah.
Just open up your blinkers and take everything in a little bit more and be positive and stop blocking people as soon as they do one thing that might catch you off guard or they don't I don't know, meet these expectations that you've created but never communicated, right?
Right.
Me and this girl I used to work with used to talk about it like an emotional bulldozer, just get that out of your head, you know? It's there, fine. You can't stop it from arriving, but you can just kind of bulldoze it out of the way.
Yeah, you can stop it. And then what's important is replacing it with something. Even if that feels fake it till you make it. The thought of, I will meet someone and when I leave the house today, blah, blah, blah. This is what affirmations are about, right? It's not about what you're saying coming true necessarily, but it's about shifting your mindset and your vibrational frequency around that intention. So that's the first thing, thoughts. Second thing is feelings. How am I going to feel when this thing manifests? We've already put that in the intention, how we want to feel in relationship. Can you start feeling those feelings now before that thing manifests, right? We work with this universal law in manifestation called the law of vibrations, which states everything in the universe vibrates on its own frequency and things with a similar frequency are drawn together. So if you start feeling those things that you want to feel in relationship now, happy, excited, whatever we wrote down, then the idea universally is that things on that frequency are naturally going to come into your orbit. Yeah.
Okay, so what are some of the signs that we're heading in the right direction and to keep going even if it's a tough day?
Well, I think it always comes back to reflection, right? It's what am I learning through this experience? What have I learned about myself? Am I, again, I feel like a broken record, but am I aligning with those core values that I set? Am I putting myself in situations that allows me to meet people who are aligned with those values? Or do I keep going back to the same situationship or the same type of man or, you know?
Yes, we do.
Yes. But it's always those people who say I really want to date or I've never met someone and then you're hang on, you're not even on the app.
Yeah,
They're like,
get on
I
the
don't
app.
even want to be on, I don't want to be on the apps. And then you're like,
Right.
well, doll, you're not even going out of the house.
Yeah.
Like, how do you expect, someone doesn't just knock on your front door.
Yeah, you can
have
do all
to
the manifestation in the world, but you also have to participate.
Right. Which
Manifestation is about you.
Yeah.
Yes, and that's, sorry, we didn't finish the equation. That's the next part of the equation is action. Like,
Yeah.
what action steps are you going to take? It's one thing to say, oh, let's manifest with the universe, but it's a co-creation piece, right? You can be
Yeah.
sitting there feeling all the feelings, but if you're not leaving the house or you're not swiping on the app or you're not telling yourself that this is possible for you,
Yeah.
then it's very unlikely it's going to happen.
I have a question about the whole process of setting intentions, manifestation, all of these kind of things that we hear about a lot, you know, on TikTok, in like discourse around dating and like life in general. And I think a lot of these conversations overlook like, what do you want to bring to the table? Like, what kind of partner do you
Want
to be?
Yeah.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I think, you know, it depends on your upbringing, right? Or what you've been exposed to. But if you've been to therapy enough, you probably have some sort of idea of what your patterns are
Yeah.
and what things you get caught up in.
We do.
Yeah. Childhood wounds, you know, all that sort of stuff. And that stuff's important, right? Because I don't know about you guys, but I went through a series of dating the exact same type of guy. And I would say to myself, why is that type of guy always attracted to me? And it's like, no, honey, why
a
are
you
you
thing.
always attracted to that type of
Yeah,
guy?
you're the common
Get over
denominator.
yourself,
Yeah. So then I had to look at myself and say, okay, what was it about those men that I found attractive and what can I do differently, right? It's a
And what
self-awareness
vaccine
thing.
can I get to prevent?
Yeah, right. I do think the focus is always on the other person. And it's not to say, hey, fix yourself, there's something wrong with you, because I also think you can heal in relationship. You don't have to
Absolutely,
be
you
healed.
can.
No, I don't think about it from that perspective, but I do think that you hear a lot of the sort of traditional like dating discourse is like, I want someone with X, Y, like this shopping list of
Yeah,
sort
what
of
are you bringing to the
characteristics
table?
and things that people
Yeah.
want. But I don't think there's enough focus on, and when I find that person, this is how I want to show up and this is the kind of partner that I want to be.
I really think like Lucille and I are very big on like accountability and looking at what we've contributed to any type of situation.
One of the things I do when I'm having a moment of feeling like really down or like things aren't working out as they're meant to, this is in the realm of dating, but also in work and business stuff as well, is I sit down and write a list of all of my redeeming qualities, which might sound really egotistical to some people, but it's a reminder of what you're bringing to the table.
Yeah.
Right? I'm like, I'm funny, I'm clever, I'm intelligent, I hold good conversation, I'm sexy, I'm beautiful, and writing it all down and going, oh yeah, okay, I'm actually bringing quite a bit to the table.
Yeah.
This is great. And then going out with that energy.
I always like to just see, though, if you don't bring much to the table, how the other person is going to step up. Like, how are they going to come to the table as
You
well?
go out to dinner with Shanti and
I
she
like
just sits
pushing.
there in silence.
Yeah, I just like
What have you got to
looking
say?
them in the eye and just going,
Go on then.
are they going to stretch a little further here?
Oh, no, I think that's fair.
Yeah.
Yeah, you don't have to be the sparkly person at the table, but you can know you're the sparkly person at the table.
Oh, yeah, always
Yeah.
am. Oh, my God. Okay, so when we're talking about dating, I think that we're hearing a lot of people feel uninspired, unmotivated. I want to know if there are some easy mindset hacks that our community can use to reframe what success looks like in dating.
Yeah, absolutely. I think the first thing, and I kind of alluded to this before, but I would hop off the dating algorithms for a little while and just really get back in your energy.
TikTok.
On TikTok, yeah, because I just think it's really easy to start to spiral, you know? And I think if you can get back into your own energy, that's a really good place to start. It's almost like a reset.
But also I think negative content gets views and it gets likes. And so it feeds this kind of algorithm of like, you know, people don't really want to watch a video about like how you found your boyfriend. But the guy that ghosted you, like people will watch that content because it feels more relatable. It feels more exciting.
Absolutely.
So then it's like feeding this sort of algorithm of negative content. And then all of a sudden everyone's like, why do I feel so shit about dating? It's like, well, that's the diet you're consuming of content. And that's why we wanted to sort of start this podcast as well, is like talking about the positive things that people can be doing.
Absolutely. And so I think another really helpful tool, and this is what I do a lot, maybe is going to be a bit woo-woo to some people, but is sitting in a visualization meditation and really kind of visualizing what you want that relationship to look like. Feel it. What does it feel like to witness yourself in that relationship? What does it look like? Can you have gratitude for that relationship right now before you even have it? Yeah. Gratitude, if you can feel gratitude right now, not even for love, like just for anything, like what are you most grateful for in your life right now?
My friends.
Okay. And you, Lucille?
My team.
Okay. So if you guys were to sit here, visualize your team, visualize your friends, really feel into the energy of how grateful you are for them, your vibrational frequency is shifting automatically. It's the fastest way to get there, right? Yeah. So when you're feeling a bit hopeless and you're like, I'm never going to meet that person, if you can sit in visualization, I do it without envisaging a specific person because I think we don't want to attach too much to one specific person, but just the idea of them and where are you and what are you guys doing and really feel that energy that can start to shift the energy around you, but then also your thoughts and your feelings. And then what actions will you take when you hop out of that visualization?
Yeah. So, I mean, that's part of neuroscience, right?
Yeah.
I speak about that in psychology because obviously I help people navigate challenging conversations. And I always like to say, you know, when you're going somewhere, so if you've got for example, like a scary conversation or maybe like you've got a date coming up and you're nervous about it, when you're going somewhere and you know where you want to go, you can look it up on Google Maps and you know the directions and you know the pathway and you feel confident because you're like, okay, I know it's going to take me 25 minutes to get there. I'm going to go this road, this road, this road. So by the time I get there, I'm going to feel really confident. I think it's the same thing when it comes to like dating or conversations. If you can go, okay, I know where I want to be going and it's to get on a date with someone who, you know, holds these qualities, etc. The path I'm going to take to get there is A, B, C, and D. I feel confident in that and I know this is what I can do to control that situation. I think that helps bring more matches your way because you have a little bit more clarity on what you're looking for, but also you feel more confident in that journey as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
This episode is brought to you by Bumble. We know making the first move on dating apps can be a little bit daunting.
Luckily, Bumble's opening moves feature makes it super easy to get the conversation going straight away.
Shanti, what's your opening move? I already know it's going to be a little bit flirty.
Well, mine is tell me something that you're passionate about. What about you?
Oh, mine is what's your favourite thing you've learnt from TikTok?
I love it. So on Bumble, you can either write your own opening move or choose from one of the many suggestions and then sit back and wait for your matches to come to you.
This is your sign to download the app and date on your terms. Find Bumble in the App Store or on Google Play. So I know from even just the titles of some of your books, I think you'll have some opinions on some of, I want to run through just like very quickly some of these like very famous lines about dating. And I want your opinions on these too, Shanti.
Yeah.
Of true or false.
Okay.
It will find you when you stop looking.
I hate being told this and I don't recommend people say it to anybody, but I'm going to say true because I know I'm so sorry.
It, but true.
I hate it, but it's true. Something, I don't know what it is. I don't really have an explanation, but it's an energy shift.
Yeah. It is true, but it's also not a helpful thing.
No, it's not helpful.
It's very
Never
patronizing.
say it to someone. Yeah.
And as true as it might be, it is always going to make the person on the receiving end feel shit.
And also when you really want something, it's very hard to say, I'm not looking for it. I'm good. I'm fine. It has to be a genuine shift in energy and you can't tell someone to do that.
I think it's like about not being anxious, you know, like when you're looking for something and you're not getting it, you could get a little bit anxious about it.
Yes.
And I think it's also about like, I'm very big on, and it's hard, this is a really hard one. I think it's better to be nonchalant than to be negative. So I think like once you become a little bit nonchalant about something, then it's easier to be more open to things coming your way.
Yeah, it's the non-attachment piece.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
Interesting. Next one.
Everything happens for a reason.
Again, like agreed, but very frustrating to hear. And I don't think it's helpful if the thing that's happened is something that makes someone feel shit.
Yeah, it's like someone's died, your husband's left you. Oh, everything happens for a reason.
Happens for a reason.
What
worst thing to use?
What fucking reason could it possibly be?
I don't think that one's correct.
But I just want to try and back it up a little bit.
All right.
I don't think that necessarily looking at it as a reason is the healthy way to look at it. But if we can look back at things, reflect on things and say, what was the lesson in that? What did I learn about myself through that experience? Then we can say, okay, well, something came of it, right? But not that it happened specifically for me to go through that lesson.
I think something that's more helpful is like, you will get through this, like you will survive this. This is not the end of the world. So I think that kind of angle is like more helpful than like, there's a reason this happened, you just don't know it.
Yeah, you're right. It's not helpful. Please don't say that to anybody.
Yeah. I think people say everything happens for a reason when they don't know what to say.
When they're uncomfortable.
And you're actually better off saying, I don't know what to say.
Yeah. Well, this is really shit.
I don't know what to tell you. Last one.
I'm scared of the last one.
No, it's fine. What is meant for you will never pass you by.
Okay. I half agree with this. If you are aligning yourself with your values, if you are quite a self-aware person, if you are doing the work, whatever you want to call the work, it doesn't even have to be hard, but you are doing what you can to meet, and we're talking in the context of dating, right?
Yes, yeah.
Yeah, to meet the person or a person, because I think there are many people we can meet, then no, I don't think it's going to pass you by. It will absolutely come across your path. But if you are repeating the same lessons over and over and over again, and you're staying with your situationship that's not going anywhere, and you are not making any adjustments or improvements to enhance your energy and enhance your life, then yeah, it might pass you by.
My take on this one, I think you might agree, Shanti, is this. I think it is true, but I also think it can be wielded in a very toxic way. And the reason that I say that is I think that there are lots of people that we will have a connection with, sometimes a really, really strong connection with, but those aren't necessarily our forever people. Like it can be used as a way to be like, no, I need to be with this person because I broke up with him, but then I ran into him on the street 2 days later. And I think you can just use it to justify unhealthy behavior.
I think you can use all of those things that you read out to justify unhealthy behavior.
Yeah. And it's like what's meant for you will never pass you by, absolutely. But it doesn't mean it's meant to stay.
In your
life.
life.
Oh, no. Yeah, I think they're two separate things.
Absolutely. So another question. Do you think getting butterflies on dates is a good sign or a warning sign?
I mean, it depends on what your butterflies are.
I love butterflies.
Right. I think for me, as I've gotten older, I also love butterflies, but are the butterflies a fight or flight response, or a healthier way of looking at, does this person give me butterflies, is, for me anyway, it's, does my nervous system feel regulated? Do I feel calm and relaxed around this person? Or am I on edge waiting for a text to come through that I've been waiting for 3 days now? And when it finally comes, then I feel this rush of adrenaline and I feel alive again.
Yeah.
You know, so is it good? Is it bad? I don't know. It depends on how your butterflies feel. But I do think a regulated nervous system is what we should be striving for.
I think for me it depends on like where in my body I'm feeling it. Like,
okay.
Wasn't thinking about it like that, but now that I am, that also counts. Yeah. But I think it's like if you're feeling that like tight feeling in your chest or like in the pit of your stomach, and then you feel that sense of relief, like you can associate that with butterflies, but like that's actually like
anxiety,
cortisol overload, you know. But if you just feel it like, you know, that light kind of like heart skip a beat when you get a text from someone, you know, like
I think that's
that
fine,
kind of thing.
course.
I think is great when you've got that like I could vomit or like something is happening in my digestive system that's making me, then that's not good.
No.
Yeah.
And again, that's self-awareness, right?
Context.
Like what is my body's reaction to this right now?
Yeah.
What was that meme I sent you the other day? Was it like that you let someone go or they released you from your group?
It was like did they dump you or did they release you from suffering?
Yeah, right.
I love that. Okay, so let's talk about boundaries. We're really, really into boundaries. How do you create and stick to boundaries that you know you need when you are dating or going into relationships?
Yeah, I'm going to take you back to values and how I feel in relationship. That is what will set your boundaries. right?
Yeah.
I have to say, like, if people struggle with boundaries, try setting them and adhering to them, because I get such a freaking high when I've set a boundary and then I walk away and I'm like, I actually said it.
I'm a boundary girly.
Yeah. And it feels empowering. It feels, I kind of look at dating sometimes as like this isn't very sexy, graduating university modules, right? And when you have learnt a lesson, you progress to the next stage, it's unlikely it's going to come back again, right? So when you set a boundary with someone and maybe it's a pattern you've been exhibiting for a while, it's almost like universally the universe goes, okay, she's got it. We're not going to send her that again, right? And you move on.
And if you're not learning the lesson, they just keep sending that
they're like,
fuckboy back
what about in this form or this form?
Oh, there he is again in different form.
Popped up, okay.
Okay. I really like that.
Yeah, I like the idea of that. Like, I've heard that before, that saying that like you just, until you learn the lesson. I think I heard that someone say that about like a past life or something.
Well, it's almost like it's energy again. You get sent the same energy until you resolve that karma.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think it's all about like what you think you deserve as well.
Absolutely.
And that's what a boundary is there to help protect you. And I think a lot of people go, oh, I struggle with boundaries. I'm not very good with boundaries. And then
I'm great with boundaries.
You're so good. You and I thrive off boundaries. And I think people have to recognize that you don't just fall into having strong boundaries.
No.
You know, we always look at people and we go, wow, look at where they are in their life. Look how great their life is. They don't look at the journey that person went on to get to that place.
When I was 22, I had no boundaries in any part of my life.
Yeah.
It's something that you have to,
practice
especially in a work setting, is something you have to practice, but even more so like in a romantic setting.
And I think in dating, the reason it's so hard for people is it's like, well, if I set this boundary, then that person's not going to like me or I'm going to ruin this experience. But it's like, if you don't set the boundary, you're the one losing out, right? Absolutely.
Every time you say no to someone else, you're saying yes to yourself.
Yeah.
And I think that's how you have to look at it. Okay, let's talk about breakups. If you are going through a breakup, how do you stop yourself from obsessing about if or when they move on and start making yourself the focus, the main character, putting yourself on the pedestal, which you should have been the whole time, but how do you put yourself back there?
Yeah, I would start thinking of yourself as a vibrational energy and what can I do to start restoring that frequency, because that's what I've got to put out in the world and that's what I'm going to use to attract the next person, or at least to feel my best in this moment, right? I also think like when we break up with people, it's really easy to sort of marinate in the energy of the past and we go over, I should have done this or I could have done that, or why did they do this or why did they say that? Again, that is starting to influence the way that we're showing up energetically. So I would say to someone, if you've just been through a breakup, the best thing you can do is go back to that annoying list of mine with what are my values? How do I want to feel? And start feeling those things right now to restore yourself to a point where you feel aligned with who you are and you know exactly who that is, so that when you do go out into the dating scene again, you are at your full capacity. Yeah.
I love that.
Anything else you would add that we haven't covered that like people come to you a lot or that you wish more people understood?
When it comes to manifestation, like stop thinking about the thing that you want to bring in and start focusing on yourself, almost like you would your own health routine. So your diet, your exercise, your energy. That's how we're looking at it, right? So I'm going to eat this today to feel well. I'm going to go to the gym in the morning and I'm going to sit in meditation and work on my vibrational frequency and align myself with my values.
Thank you so much, Angel. That was really great.
Thank you.
Shanti, we're at the DM section of the episode. So we got this DM in the inbox and we wanted to chat with an expert because we are experts in some things, not everything.
No, definitely not this topic.
So we have called in Jema Lee, who is a period coach, menstrual cycle educator and speaker.
Thank you, Jema.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
You're welcome. Shanti, do you want to read out the DM that we received?
So we have a DM from Georgia who said, I've started tracking my period. I've noticed so many health benefits already by just understanding my cycle better. But do you think it could also help my dating life? Love that.
Yeah, I love that. I find this so interesting because I recently started tracking my cycles on Stardust. And I've noticed like things that I was never noticing before. And everyone's talking about, getting to know the different phases and, well, I just want to hear more about it and how it could be impacting my dating life.
Jema, over to you.
Thanks so much for having me, ladies. This is such an interesting and I find a hot topic. I think when menstruators unlock the information around their menstrual cycle, it can definitely add a lot of value to their dating life. It really comes down to understanding where you're at in your cycle and what phase of your cycle you feel you're most vibrant in, and also the phases in your cycle that you feel the most outgoing. Because let's face it, there's some phases of our cycle where getting dressed up to go on a hot day is just not what we feel like. And when we understand where we are in our cycle, we can, one, plan to be in an appropriate time of our cycle, not a loathy time, as opposed to, like, say, menstruation or pre-menstruation, trying to put ourselves out there and have dates with people that we may never have met before. Not to mention, based around sexual interactions, I think when you know where you're at in your cycle, if you are planning on not conceiving and you really want to be sexually active with the people that you're dating with, knowing that is like a huge piece of information. One, you want to make sure that you're like not at the ovulatory time, but just before or just after, so you're still riding the high vibe of that inner summer feeling. Also, you don't want any surprises like your period arriving unexpectedly because you don't track your cycle, so you're not sure when it's going to come next.
Like, I'm 34 and I only recently learnt what the luteal phase is. If there's anyone out there like me, could you explain the four phases?
Stages of the cycle.
So you've got menstruation, which is your first phase. Then you've got the follicular phase, which is the time after your last day of bleeding or spotting through to ovulation phase. And then post-ovulation, we have that luteal phase. That luteal phase is around 11 to 14 days in length for a healthy cycle until we menstruate again. So when people say, oh, my cycle is so long, they're talking about the day from day one of their first, like their bleed, right through to the next day one of their bleed. And then the period is the time that we're menstruating.
But there's actually like 4 cycles within the cycle.
Yes, there is. So in each of those different phases, you've got menstruation, the follicular ovulation, and the luteal phase. It's kind of like we have 4 different personalities.
I definitely have 4 different personalities.
Well, I always like to say, I've got
at least
multiple.
4.
I've got 8, if not 12. No, I always think, I always like to educate my patients, especially on that PMS, or for some people, it's even longer, the PMDD, which is when you feel basically like raging PMS a week to 10 days before the day of bleeding, so before menstruation. I always say, do not make any big decisions during this time. That's that time just before your period is when you should be really amping up your self-care so that you feel really good. And then the week after that, when you've just stopped bleeding, is like a great time to go dating because that's when you're feeling really good.
Yeah. Jema, what about... like, I know it's different for everyone, but is there, like Chantelle touched on this a little bit, but is there like a typical phase in the cycle when like you feel your sexiest?
Definitely. So that pre-ovulatory time, which for most people, if you have an average of like, say, a 26 to a 32-day cycle, so if your cycle length is anywhere in there, you're looking at between the days of like day 10 and day 16, but you're going to actually have higher estrogen, and estrogen is like a confident boosting hormone. So like I always say to my clients that if you're wanting to try something new for the first time or go outside of your comfort zone, that's the time you want to do it. Now, this is really, like you mentioned, dependent on the person's experience in their cycle, because some people feel really confident and they love menstruation, whereas others can find it really challenging in their body. And so if it's a challenging time for you, I would say that's probably a great time to actually stay at home and rest, or actually, I say bleed on it. If you've got a big decision coming up, like sit with it, bleed on it. It is a great time to jump back on Bumble and explore like, oh, let me create my profile again, or let me find new pictures I want to add into my profile. Start those conversations and connections, and then plan meeting up in a few days when you're outside of that menstrual window. And that estrogen is going to be coming in, kicking into that spring vibe of, oh, I feel good in my body again, and I can wear my tighter clothes and I can feel a little bit sassy.
Yeah. One last question from me. I have started noticing recently that like 2 or 3 days before I get my period, I will have like a sleepless night. Like, it's happening. Like, is there any other?
She literally does not sleep.
I just will like be wired up all night. Like, Are there any other symptoms like that that people don't, because I only connected that to my cycle once I started tracking my period. Are there any other things like that that people might not connect to their cycle?
And what can Lucille do about that?
And what can I specifically do about my symptoms that I just explained?
So for you personally, I think it's actually really important to understand that late luteal phase, this is the get shit done phase of the cycle. When we have high activity in our mind at nighttime, we are, awake still very much. And we're like, we want to get all the things done. And I'm sure you've both had this experience where you're like, I'm just going to clean the cutlery drawer in my kitchen. And then all of a sudden the whole kitchen is cleaned and you have no idea how that happened. I would firstly be looking at how many days before you menstruate does it actually occur? Because that can be linked into a hormonal shift or change that's going on for you in your luteal phase. So I always say to clients that you want to track your cycle for minimum 3 cycles in a row and see if there's a common day that's actually occurring on. So for you, for example, if you had a 30-day cycle and that was occurring every cycle on day 25, we could link that back and actually look at the hormonal profile at that day to go, okay, is that what's contributing here? Because we have 4 different main sex hormone that flow through the body. So pinpointing that would be the first thing. Second thing is in our luteal phase, we want to really have a good pre-bed routine. And so I think that out of all the times in your cycle, getting off the phone, stopping scrolling, all of those things can definitely help with that. And I can see you tapping your face like, maybe.
All right, that's a really great answer. I love that.
Well, thank you so much.
Thank you for coming on the potty today. I think that's been really wonderful and I hope that helps Georgia out as well.
Yes, thank you so much. And where can people find you if they want to know more?
Yeah, head over to Instagram, Wellsome_Jema Lee, WELLSOME. I'm there. Also, wellsome.com is my website, free cycle tracker online, free gifts on my website.
Thanks, Jema. We really appreciate you.
Thank you.
Thanks for having me, ladies. See ya.
Well, that was an amazing episode.
Good.
I feel
Loved
super
her.
abundant right now.
Not scarce at all.
No, not scarce at all. So if you want to follow Jordana, you can find her at Jordanna Levin, Levin, on Instagram. And if you want to find us,
You can go to @Bumble_Australia. Send us a little message. Ask us a question, like our content.
yes, leave
And
her a
then
very good review.
Tap
and we
the
will,
bell.
Yeah, and we'll see you next
Follow
week.
us. Tell your friends. Bye.